The rusted chain link fence, a skeletal barrier against the encroaching wilderness, bit into my fingers, the cold metal a stark contrast to the sweat beating on my forehead. We'd found a gap, a ragged tear in the perimeter, just large enough to squeeze through. 5 of us, Liam, Maya, Chloe, and me, our hearts pounded a frantic rhythm against our ribs, fueled by a cocktail of adrenaline and foolish bravado. We were urban explorers, or at least we fancied ourselves as such. Tonight our quarry was the abandoned St. Augustine's Asylum, a gothic behemoth that loomed against the bruised twilight sky like a monument to forgotten horrors. "Remember the plan," Liam whispered, his voice barely audible over the rustling of overgrown weeds. "Stick together, no splitting up, and if we see anything, or anyone, we leave, immediately." His words, meant to reassure, only amplified the unease gnawing at my insides. St. Augustine's had a reputation. A dark, whispered history of cruelty and madness. Stories of inhumane treatments, of patients left to rot in its decaying halls, of a lingering malevolence clinging to the very stones of the building. We slipped through the gap. The fence groaned in protest. Stepping into the overgrown courtyard, we were hit by the thick scent of damp concrete, decaying vegetation, and something else, something acrid and metallic, like the lingering ghost of blood. The asylum stood before us, a hulking mass of brick and stone, its windows like vacant eyes staring out into the twilight. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the crunch of broken glass and dead leaves beneath our boots. Shadows stretched long and distorted, playing tricks on our eyes, turning ordinary objects into menacing shapes. We moved through the echoing halls, our flashlights slicing through the gloom, illuminating peeling wallpaper, shattered windows, and the remnants of a forgotten era. We found a ward, a long, cavernous room lined with rusted metal beds, their frames twisted and broken like skeletal remains. The air here was heavy, thick with the weight of forgotten suffering. Maya, ever the intrepid one, ventured into a darkened room at the far end of the ward. "Guys, you have to see this," she called, her voice echoing through the silence. We followed, our flashlight beams converging on the far wall. It was covered in crude, childlike drawings, a chaotic tapestry of stick figures, distorted faces, and scribbled words that made no sense. A cold dread settled over us, seeping into our bones. Then, a sound, a shuffle. A low, guttural growl echoing from the depths of the ward. We froze, our flashlights cutting through the darkness, searching. "Who's there?" Liam's voice was shaky, a thin thread of bravado stretched to its breaking point. Silence. Then a figure emerged from the shadows, a gaunt silhouette against the darkness. It moved with an unnerving, jerky gait, its head bowed, its face obscured by a tangled mass of matted hair. But its eyes reflected our flashlights, burning with a feral intensity. He's living here," Chloe whispered, her voice trembling, her eyes wide with terror. The figure lunged. A guttural snarl ripped through the silence, shattering the oppressive quiet. We scattered, our flashlights bouncing wildly, casting grotesque shadows on the walls, turning the decaying more nightmarish tableau. He was fast, impossibly fast for his gaunt frame. He swiped at Liam, his hand tipped with long, filthy fingernails, like the talons of some predatory bird. Liam yelped, stumbling back. His flashlight clattered to the floor, plunging him into darkness. Panic seized me, cold and paralyzing. My breath hitched. I fumbled in my pocket, fingers trembling as I grasped the small canister of mace I'd foolishly thought was just a precaution, a mere prop for our urban exploration adventure. The figure turned toward me, his eyes burning with terrifying ferocity. He was close, too close. I could smell him, a foul, acrid stench that filled my nostrils. I pressed the trigger. A burst of orange mist erupted from the canister, filling the air. He roared, a sound of pure, unadulterated rage. He clawed at his face, momentarily blinded. "Run!" I screamed, my voice hoarse, grabbing Chloe's arm and pulling her toward the exit. We fled. Our flashlights cut through the darkness as we tore through the labyrinthine halls, our footsteps echoing like a drumbeat of terror. Ben, his flashlight beam a frantic strobe, swung it at the man as he lunged. It connected with a sickening thud, a dull, resonant sound that echoed through the building, buying us a few precious seconds. We stumbled into the overgrown courtyard. The chain-link fence was our only salvation. The figure was close behind. His guttural growls echoed through the night, a chilling soundtrack to our desperate escape. We scrambled through the gap in the fence, the cold metal biting into our skin, tearing at our clothes. I turned just in time to see him slam against the fence. His eyes, burning, feral, locked onto mine. His hands reached through the rusted mesh, grasping at the air. We didn't stop running until we reached the main road, breathless, shaking. Hearts pounding against our ribs like trapped birds. We huddled together, counting our scrapes, our bruises, our near misses. The sharp sting of mace clung to our clothes, a stark reminder of the terror we'd barely escaped. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the distant wail of a siren, a sound that seemed to mock our fear. We looked back at the asylum, its dark silhouette looming against the night sky, a silent sentinel watching our retreat. We knew with chilling certainty that we'd been lucky. We had stumbled into something ancient, something feral, and we had barely escaped with our lives. The drawings, the growls, the eyes in the darkness, they would haunt our dreams, a reminder of the horrors lurking within the decaying walls of St. Augustine's.